It's May 25th, 1982. Deep in the South Atlantic, 4 Argentinian jets are screaming across the waves on what is, for all intents and purposes, a suicide mission. Their target? 2 of the Royal Navy's most advanced warships. This is the incredible story of how a handful of pilots in outdated jets, armed with nothing but skill and sheer nerve, took on a modern destroyer and won. Entering their range, don't climb for any reason. That was the chilling order from Captain Pablo Carballo to his men. I mean, just picture it. They were flying so low that sea salt was literally sandblasting their canopies. The slightest mistake, one tiny pull-up on the stick, and they'd be lit up on British radar, followed almost instantly by a missile. The stakes don't get much higher than that.
So, to really get how this all went down, we need to zoom out a bit. The Falklands War was a pretty unique conflict. A full-blown modern naval war fought thousands of miles from anyone's home base. When Argentina took the islands, what they call the Malvinas, it set their air force on a direct collision course with a massive Royal Navy task force sent to take them back.
And let's be clear, this was a technological mismatch of epic proportions. You had the Argentinians flying A-4 Skyhawks, jets from the 1950s. We're talking no radar, no missile warning systems, absolutely nothing but the pilot's eyeballs and some old-fashioned unguided iron bombs. And on the other side, a Type 42 destroyer like HMS Coventry, a floating fortress of advanced electronics bristling with long-range Sea Dart missiles designed to swat threats out of the sky from miles away.
So you have to ask, why were these cutting-edge warships in so much trouble? Well, strategy. The British had landed ground troops, and those troops needed protection from air attack. To provide that cover, HMS Coventry and her sister ship, HMS Broadsword, were pushed forward into a very dangerous, very exposed position. They were set up as a missile trap, but in doing so, they also painted a giant bullseye on their own hulls.
And sure enough, the first attack wave, led by Captain Carballo himself, was on its way to test that very trap. This was shaping up to be more than just a fight between planes and ships. It was a tense duel between veteran pilots and the radar operators trying to hunt them down. A high-stakes tactical chess match.
The Argentinian plan was as simple as it was gutsy. The second they were detected, around 30 miles out, they dropped even lower, using the landmass of Pebble Island to completely disappear from British radar screens. This move totally neutralized the Coventry's biggest strength, the long reach of its Sea Dart missiles. By the time the jets popped back into view, they were way too close for the Sea Darts to even engage. This was now a knife fight.
Okay, so with the long-range Sea Darts out of the picture, everything, and I mean everything, now hinged on HMS Broadsword's Seawolf missile system. This was the close-in weapon, the last line of defense, designed for exactly this scenario, taking out sea-skimming attackers. The survival of both ships was now riding on this one piece of tech.
And then, what happened next was just a shocking, unbelievable cascade of failures. First, the Sea Darts confirmed they couldn't get a lock. Fine. But then, Broadsword's Seawolf radar did get a lock. The problem? The 2 jets were flying in such a tight formation that the computer saw them as a single target. The moment they split to attack, the system got confused by the conflicting data, and the whole guidance computer just crashed. The reboot was painfully slow. Too slow. In those final, frantic seconds, with all the advanced missile systems offline, sailors were literally firing rifles off the deck. Carballo saw the heavy fire coming from Coventry and banked towards Broadsword instead. A 1,000-pound bomb hit the ship, tore clean through the flight deck, and just plopped into the ocean. It was a dud. Pure, dumb luck had just saved HMS Broadsword from being ripped in half.
But this fight was far from over. A second wave of Skyhawks, this time led by First Lieutenant Velasco, was already on its way. And now, the British knew exactly what they were up against. They'd survived the first round by a miracle, and this was their chance to get it right. Captain Hart Dyke, commanding HMS Coventry, made a decision that was straight out of the naval tactics playbook. He ordered a hard turn to starboard. The idea was to swing the ship around to unmask all of his weapons, giving him a clean shot at all the incoming jets. In 99 out of 100 scenarios, it would have been the perfect move, but not this time.
You could just imagine the sheer shock in the operations room of HMS Broadsword, because as Coventry made its turn, its hull sailed directly into Broadsword's line of fire. It completely blocked the Seawolf missile system, the only fully working missile defense they had, at the single worst possible moment. The maneuver designed to save them had just sealed their fate.
With the missiles now useless, it all came down to Coventry's guns. But the cascade of failures wasn't over. The sights on the main 4.5-inch gun were off, sending shells splashing uselessly into the water.
Then, a 20mm anti-air cannon jammed solid. Here on Quadrilithid Gabber, we analyze these critical moments, and it's just astounding. The defense of a state-of-the-art warship had come down, once again, to sailors firing rifles from the deck.
With literally no effective defenses left, the ship was a sitting duck. The call finally came over the ship's tannoy system. Brace, brace, brace. Lieutenant Velasco had a clear, unobstructed run. His entire view was filled with the silhouette of a helpless destroyer. All the crew could do was hang on and wait for the impact.
Velasco let his bombs go. The crew felt it more than heard it. Two heavy, hollow thuds as the bombs punched through the hull, deep into the guts of the ship. For a few agonizing heartbeats, there was just silence. Maybe, just maybe, they'd get lucky again. Another dud. But then, the bombs went off, ripping the heart out of HMS Coventry.
The explosions were catastrophic. One blew a massive hole in the port side, completely wiping out the computer room and the operations center. The second one hit the forward engine room, killing the power instantly. In the fire and black smoke that erupted, 19 sailors tragically lost their lives. But in the middle of that absolute chaos, something incredible happened. There was no panic. The discipline and training of the Royal Navy crew just kicked in. They carried out a professional, by-the-book evacuation, rescuing the wounded, launching life rafts, and making sure that, despite the horrific damage, 170 of their shipmates were saved. And the last, powerful image from that day is of Captain Hartdyke. Dazed, wounded, he stood on the listing deck, making absolutely certain that every living soul was safely off his ship. Only then, as the very last man to leave, did he step into a life raft and drift away, watching his command, his ship, slip beneath the cold Atlantic waves. So what did this unbelievable act of skill and bravery by the Argentinian pilots actually accomplish? Well, this is a classic textbook example of the huge difference between a tactical victory and a strategic one. Let's break it down. For Argentina, this was a massive win, a huge morale boost. Their pilots, in 1950s era jets, had sunk one of the Royal Navy's best. For Britain, losing Coventry was a serious, painful blow. It forced them to completely change their naval tactics. But, and this is the most important part, it didn't stop the overall mission. The ground invasion to retake the islands continued. Incredibly, all 4 Argentinian pilots made it back to base. They were, rightly, celebrated as heroes. They had pulled off one of the great feats in the history of air combat. But that victory, as stunning as it was, did not change the final outcome of the war. And this whole event leaves us with a really critical question, one that echoes all throughout military history. It's one thing to win a single dramatic battle. It's another thing entirely to win a war. So when does the incredible courage and skill of the individual warrior just not become enough to shift the larger strategic reality of a conflict? The story of HMS Coventry is just a powerful lesson in technology, tactics, human error, and raw courage. It shows how the tiniest details, a split-second command, a computer glitch, can decide the fate of hundreds of lives, and how even the most spectacular victory might not be enough to actually turn the tide. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure you subscribe and share it with anyone who appreciates this kind of deep dive into military history. It's what we do here on Quadrilithid Gabber. So what are your thoughts? Was Captain Hartdyke's turn a tragic but understandable mistake? Or was it just catastrophic bad luck? I really want to hear your analysis. Drop it in the comments below. Thanks for watching.